Hey everybody out there, this is the Rock Office. Time to clock in and rock out. I'm your host, Bill Smith.
And I'm Kevin Davis.
And we are back. This is our Season 2 premiere, and we are very proud to bring you this season. We have a lot of great things ahead for you, and Kevin is going to share some of those things with you.
That's right. We've got a lot of bigger, better acts. A lot of you guys have said, hey, we want to see you guys step it up next season. And that's exactly what we think that we've done for you. We've got a lot of acts that, a little bit more national, a little bit bigger. Some acts that we're definitely very proud of and very excited to be able to bring to you. Some personal favorites, some childhood favorites, if you will. And, we're really excited to bring that to you. Also, working on a brand new website that we're going to be bringing to you here very shortly. And you can actually go to www.therockoffice.com. Check it out because it's going to be a really good place for you to get all the information on what's happening with the show and some other stuff that we're going to be able to bring to you. So we're really excited about that.
We are now on Instagram at instagram.com/therockoffice. So make sure you like us there. Stuff we're going to show on there is like behind the scenes. Some of the stuff you might not see in the episodes, kind of get a feel for our personalities, who we are and what we do. Of course, we are on Facebook. We appreciate you liking us. Facebook.com/rockoffice. We're also on Twitter at _rock_office. And we are very proud to bring you this season's Season 2 debut episode featuring Runaway Dorothy. They're a great alt-country band from Brooklyn. We want to thank the band for taking time out of their busy schedule backstage at Youngstown State University a little while ago. We want to thank all the guys in the band for the interview. We want to thank Nick Mishko and 10 and 8 management for all the great help they have been to us, and big props to them. Check out their website. They have a slew of great artists, 10and8management.com. And I guess without any further ado, we will shift in the interview, but just want to tell you one thing. As always, remember, support your local independent record stores by buying the physical copy of music instead of the digital download. And God bless. We'll see you next time on The Rock Office.
Enjoy.
Thanks. All right, hey everybody. We are here backstage and off campus at Youngstown State University with Runaway Dorothy. And if I can just get you guys to introduce yourselves and what you do in the band.
I'm Warren. I play bass.
I'm David. I'm the lead singer.
I'm Brett. I play guitar. I'm Evan. I play drums.
Great. So tell me a little bit about you guys, how you formed, how long you've been together, and all that boring backstory stuff.
I guess we've been together. Technically, the band's been around for about 6 years now.
Okay.
But really not been playing together for maybe 3 or 4. It kind of started off as like a side project, a little demo thing I did. I just started a web page with the name and was putting up demos under the name Runaway Dorothy. And it wasn't until after we recorded the first album that we actually started touring. Like, we did an entire record before we even really played more than 2 shows.
Cool.
Yeah, but it started in Charleston, South Carolina. That's where it all came together.
Well, you guys are from Brooklyn, though, right?
We're all originally from the South, and 3 of us are from North Carolina, and then this guy over here is from Florida, which is not really the South. Let's be real.
Although
whatever you got to tell yourself, sir.
Yeah. It's on the map south-ish, but it's not from the South.
This is where the argument comes in. This is where the band argument comes in.
This is where the awkward moment.
Yeah.
All right. So if you were to describe your sound, or maybe some of the artists who have influenced you, what would you say that is, and who would you say those artists are?
Anybody want to field this? I'll take it.
That's all you.
Okay. I guess we're kind of this puree of Bob Dylan, the Mamas and the Papas, Tom Petty, Ryan Adams, Counting Crows, stuff like that. I never intended to kind of form like an alt country style band. Like, I wanted to be an Oasis. I wanted to be like a 90s Brit rock band.
From the South.
Oh yeah. You know how
the famous breeding
ridiculous
ground
that sounds.
Right. The famous breeding ground of 90s Brit pop.
Oh yeah,
right.
It's North Carolina.
Yeah.
So every song I would write was coming out sounding like all these like alt country influence things with harmonies and stuff like that. And I'm like, this doesn't sound anything like Blur. That must be terrible. But yeah, it's those kind of things. And then once I stopped trying to be a Brit pop star is when I decided, hey, wait a minute. alt country exists. Maybe I'll do that.
So are those shoes you now feel comfortable being in, or?
I think so. Country and alternative are such blanket terms.
Right.
If we say that, we fit in there somewhere.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it really allows us to be pigeonholed in any way. We can pretty much do it. Like we do a range now from like super close to being really folky based in the set, and we do some stuff like some of our new songs borderline like old school Johnny Cash.
Okay.
Like it's just 2 minutes of like, whoa, this is like it's just a straight ahead like, I don't know, 2 minutes of kicking ass.
Cool.
Yeah.
So tell me a little about the origin of the name, because that's it conjures images of Wizard of Oz in my mind. I don't. What exactly does that mean?
Am I gonna get sued for this?
No, probably not, because no one's watching. So.
Okay, good. I guess before moving to New York, I was teaching guitar lessons in Burlington, North Carolina. And you're from there, close to there.
Well, yeah, I'm about 45 minutes from Burlington.
Okay. And I taught in the world's smallest studio. It literally was like you could do this and touch both walls at the same time. Like it was, and so I think by that they gave me the smallest students, like they took up the least amount of space. So I had this brother and sister duo that fought constantly. Like every time they would come into their guitar lesson, the minute mom left, closed the door, out the thing, they're just at each other's throats. And so to get them to like calm down and do anything, I was just giving them little like task to do. And then I was like, hey, you should help me come up with a band name. And they would come up with terrible names. You know, whatever like movie was popular then, or like whatever toy they just bought, they would say, you should call your band this. And it's always terrible. And then one day, mom comes to pick them both up. They've been fighting and I've separated them. Mom gets there, they straighten up. They're such perfect angels at the point. And mom was like, I guess mom got in on it. And they were like, well, did they tell you what you should call your band? And I was like, oh, yeah, it's funny. I'm not going to call my band anything they said. But she's like, well, did little Susie tell you what she's going to call her band when she grows up? And I'm expecting just the worst name possible. And she's getting all quiet and shy. And she kind of hides behind her mom and says, I'm going to call my band Runaway Dorothy. And I thought, no, you're not.
Isn't that adorable?
Yeah.
Wow.
Pickpocketing a little 7-year-old girl.
You should feel horrible. Now, if she sees this, how is that going to weigh on your conscience?
She's probably 30 by now.
Oh.
I don't know. Well, in my defense, I never intended to use it. I was like, well, that's a pretty good name. And then we went in probably about 2 or 3 months later. We were doing demos for some stuff. And the guy wanted to know what he should catalog it under. Is it under your name? And I was like, oh no, if I put it in my name, the band's gonna have a fit. It's not. So he's like, well, what should I call it? So we'll just put it under Runaway Dorothy, just so we have a catalog thing, and then we'll figure out a name later. I haven't figured out a name yet.
Yeah.
So I just stuck
Well,
with
it's cool. It seems to work.
Yeah.
So, it kind of fits, like I said, that Wizard of Oz, Midwestern, and then with the music you guys perform, it works. It works good.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys, here is a little sample of Runaway Dorothy and what they do.
Hi, we're Runaway Dorothy, and you're watching The Rock Office. This next song is called Victory. Victory. I was down and I was so low, worrying and thoughts killing me. Just over yonder, I heard the sweet sound calling me out. Victory, 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 coming down the line for you and me. As the trumpet starts to ring, I hear all the angels sing, calling out the names and victory. You'll tell your mother, you'll tell your father, tell everyone that they see. Just over yonder, out in the distance, come and cry, victory, victory, victory.
All right, we are back. You just heard a little sample of Runaway Dorothy and what these guys do. We are here at Youngstown State University. Now, you guys have a lot of exciting new things coming up in the near future, and I have been told I got to be kind of selective about what I'm allowed to talk about or not talk about. So I know some of that stuff I will maybe let you use your discretion and talk about. But you also have a new album coming out.
We do, yes.
So tell me a little bit about maybe some of the discretionary stuff, and then the process of the album, the title. Who any guys you worked with, producers, artists, or anything like that. The writing and recording process, the whole gamut. We're music nerds and we love hearing all that stuff.
Oh yeah. Is anybody else? You want to talk about this? Just like
Sure.
Lincoln stuff.
So I've known these guys for coming up on 3 to 4 years, but didn't really start playing with the band until not quite 2 years. I came back from being on tour and they needed some help on the drums. And I said I'd think about it, and then Dave and I had a sit down, and we talked a lot about what the band wants to do and what's in line, and I was really excited about it. So most of the allure was just playing music that I believed in and with friends. But then rehearsal started, and at the time it was really, really challenging because I had never really played anything in a country feel setting. Okay. Yeah. A friend of mine said, yeah, what you're doing now it's not another notch in the belt, it's a whole new belt. Because before I was doing rock and roll stuff and the country shuffle was something really different. So we had about 6 weeks of rehearsal and played a ton of rehearsals, and then did a show. And then we were off to, I think originally we were going to Nashville. Yeah. To record.
We're going to work with our producer we had on our first record with Orrin Thornton. All of a sudden, he got fancy and big time. Did some stuff for Miranda Lambert and got some Grammy nod stuff, and which was awesome. And he was still going to hook us up with a killer rate, but it was like his scheduling was murder. Yeah. So we just couldn't do it. Okay. Yeah.
And I think, and then a friend of ours and a former member of the band turned us on to Threshing Floor Audio in studios in Lincolnton, North Carolina. So it was definitely nice to get out of the city, so to where there was no distractions and it was just us, and we went down there.
Cell phones don't work.
There was literally nothing to do but get up at 8 a.m, shower at the Days Inn, have our junior engineer pick us up in his car, and us all pack in there, and we go to the studio and record for 10 to 12 hours, and then he drops us off, and then we go to the Lincoln house that's there, and Danny would take care of us and give us some chicken wings and the odds and ends refreshments, and then go to bed and then do it all over the next day. So it was really simple. It was really simple and no frills, and we went in and did it and had a lot of fun. There was definitely challenges, but for me, but good challenges that kind of made me listen to the music and take ownership in what we were doing. So it was a lot of fun.
Cool. So the sound of your new album, which the title is
The Wait.
The first album, when I heard, The Ark, was a real stripped down, kind of like, I would almost say bare bones, a lot of acoustic guitar, which by the way, probably the best recorded acoustic guitar I've ever heard in my life.
Wow, just wait.
Yeah. It is incredible. I remember the first time I played it for him, he was like, wow, that's amazing. But anyway, what is the biggest difference between the Ark and now the Wait? Are they just kind of in the same vein? Are you guys really trying to change things up a little, or are you gonna?
I think they were similarly written, and conceptually similar.
Okay.
In those ways, but in the delivery, I think it's a completely different ballgame.
Okay.
Whereas the Ark was written before anything was on a stage, and all the parts I had in my mind, but they had to come along while we were recording. I was like, oh, I know what goes here. It just never existed yet.
Okay.
Whereas a lot of these songs had been on a stage setting, and how everything plays together, we already knew. And so when we went into track in Threshing Floor, it's what we did is we set up in this massive room, and everybody just went through the take, and we'd say, well, is that how it's supposed to sound, or those are the correct parts? And then we would figure out, okay, yes, that's it. but everything kind of already existed going into Threshing Floor, and I think that natural it captures more of a performance in my mind than. And that's what I really wanted. Like, I really wanted the entire album to feel like. Is that
the take? That's what we kept saying. Is that the take?
Is that the take?
Yeah.
Is it? I wanted to feel like at 8 o'clock, the studio door opened, we walked in, and then we sat in the same spots and we recorded, so that when you actually hear the album, when you hear a piano, it always exists in the same spot in every song. Okay. And it might not be the best way of doing things, but I wanted it to feel like, okay, there are 4 guys in that room, but how do we have 5 instruments? Oh, that's where we invited the engineer to come in.
Okay.
And he was sitting there. He hit record, and then we just went through it. And I wanted to have that, like, the band feel, like almost like, you know, the way the band would play something and just be like, that's it.
That's what they did on their second album, the Brown album. Yeah, I mean, they all just got in the room and, you know, they had at it.
They were living in that house and then would get
Sammy
up
Davis Jr.'s house. Yeah, that's where they so which they're one of my favorite bands also. So, so you're in great company. But as I listen to you talk about this album, one of the things I'm just on the cuff going to ask, there's been a lot of talk lately in the music industry about digital versus analog. Did you guys do any analog recording on this? Because it sounds what you're doing would really lend well to that. And I know there's somewhat of a move to try to get back to that analog, especially with a lot of the vinyl being pressed and everything. You know, just that natural sound of what the music should sound like, not the digitalized, over-compressed crap.
Yeah.
I mean, is that something that you guys tried for on this album? Did you record
the studio in Nashville had the option of analog.
Okay.
The studio in North Carolina, Threshing Floor, did not have it the analog. But in their, I guess, defense, they did a lot of research on us before we even walked in the door.
Okay.
Of knowing that we wanted it to sound very organic, and it could, because they have the ability to turn out some super slick records. Like super slick. It's sounding amazing, but it's a little too clean.
Okay.
And going in for us, they had selected drum arrangements that were clearly specified for like an organic sound, and the way they set the room up was super organic. And the mic choices they got.
We walked in and we were tracking in 3 hours.
Yeah, we expected,
which does not happen.
Right.
Yeah, spending a couple of days just figuring out where do the drums sit in the room.
Right.
And they'd already had everything out and being like, is it this kick drum or this kick drum? Do. No, that's this one. That's exactly the one you got. And it's all digital.
Okay.
But it's not super clean, and like the entire time, even in some of the mixing, I've been like less compression, take it more out, more room, more space. Yeah. Like it might not be the best for the listener at some points, but even like vocally, I don't want all the vocals to be smashed up against the thing. Like if there's a dynamic shift where I sang something that's almost inaudible, there might have been a reason why I did it that way. It might be a terrible lyric or something. I don't know. But I want that to be part of the delivery. And I don't want it to be fixed of like, oh, we can just bring that back up and like everything's automated and like slide it together. Like the drum takes are all one takes. Yeah. We didn't go through
no overdubbing or
no.
Wow.
We didn't, like the basic tracks, the scratch tracks and everything. They're just like, well, that's it. That's where it sounds like. And it's not perfect. It's not perfect. But there's certain things where you get like that snare hits just a little bit late. God, it couldn't have been any better. There's no way it could have been.
And I think a lot what you're describing is maybe kind of the move to go back to the analog or to the original sound. Because
I love to collect records. I love the sound.
Yeah.
I wish my pocket was deep enough to produce it. Like I can't remember the name of the studio that there's no digital interruption, so you can record in their studios straight to tape, and they can cut the record as you're recording it. Wow. I think it's in Indiana.
Wow.
I would love to one day do that.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good goal for me and maybe for us.
Well, you know, that actually segues really nicely to a question I ask all of our guests, and I'll just ask now, and we'll edit or whatever later, but I am such a fan of music in its physical form. I detest iTunes. I think digital music has actually ruined the music industry to where it's just in shambles right now. But I always ask our guests, what is your feeling on physical music versus digital music? Because I still buy the LPs, I still buy the CDs. I don't spend my money on iTunes or anything like that. Because to me, there's more of a connection. There's more sensibility in that. What is your take on that? What do you guys feel about the physical versus digital?
Well, my brother is kind of in the same vein as you. I like to have a physical record. I had records growing up. I also had cassette tapes.
Yeah.
I remember pulling cassette tapes and using those. And I remember when CDs first came out, I had like those huge CD players that everybody had. I'm sure that it couldn't even fit in your back pocket.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a certain quality, a warmth you get with analog, like you were talking about. There's something about, even with the old Victrolas. I love those. Those old Victrolas you put on there. There's that sound you can't get with anything else.
Right.
And the same thing with LPs or with any kind of vinyl record that you kind of lose with digital. I guess the only thing and the only benefit with digital is convenience.
Yeah.
And that's it. And you can catalog things. You can have hundreds of thousands of music in one little spot at your disposal. So
Yeah.
I think that's the only.
I've had this conversation with a lot of people in a lot of different venues and a lot of different volumes. So what I really appreciate about a physical copy, a physical music, like you say, when you can't see it live, is it does promote active and conscious listening. So it's not particularly the right. An LP is not going to be good for cleaning the house, because when you clean the house, you want to get to it and not stop and finish it. But if you put an LP on, you're gonna have to stop at one point and flip the record, unless you have an awesome old school jukebox or a turntable that does it for you. I don't have one of those. Right. So what ends up happening is that when I want to listen to a record, I sit down and I listen to a record. I look at the liner notes, the artwork, the whole package. It creates for a more personal experience. Having said that, I'm, I guess, a slave to music. I want to listen to it in the shower. I take public transportation all the time. And I used to have a Discman, but if I had the choice, I'm a slave to an MP3. Yeah. So if the conversation is physical better than digital, I appreciate what physical can give me. But if the question is like a technology thing, where the listener can have that connection with something physical, I think as far as the digital aspect and technology, it gives the creator and the artist a lot more options.
Yeah.
Especially in my personal opinion, I'm a big fan of jazz.
Yeah.
When you put it on, when you listen to jazz on your iPod, it's still great, but you put it on like an old Davis record or any sort of like John Coltrane and Davis back in the day, at some club, I think you get a really fantastic quality. In my personal opinion, it's only great and a great experience on an LP on a record.
Yeah, live at Village Vanguard doesn't have the same resonance in your earphones on your eye. Yeah, I totally agree. So
I think I like the idea of like the digital as being a funnel, is it helps get the music out there, and then the more people that listen to it, then the music nerds like us are gonna have the MP3, but we're also the nerds that also own the record too, because we're gonna listen to it on the subway with our MP3s. And then get home and like relax and listen to it, and then compare the two things. Like, that sounds different on that one. I like how that makes that mix sound a little bit better.
Yeah. Right.
Just luckily, no one's there to hear that boring inner monologue.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, that's great, guys. I couldn't agree more. Yeah. So, all right. Here's Runaway Dorothy. A little bit of what they do. We'll be back in a couple minutes.
Hi, we're Runaway Dorothy, and you're watching The Rock Office. And this next song is called "Give Me a Reason."
1, 2, 3.
Oh, my love, where
why you would waste your life. Give me a reason that I should stay. Hold my heart, don't let it stray. Time has its reason, and wonders why you would waste your life by my side.
All right, we are back. Runaway Dorothy, a little sample of what they do. We are here backstage at Youngstown State University, and we are enjoying our time here with the guys. And let me just ask, we get a chance to, the music scene is huge, but it's also kind of small when you're kind of in it. So who are some of the artists that you guys have had the chance to rub shoulders with, or who you would maybe consider like a mentor, people you played with or has worked with you in your process of writing, recording, and performing that you can legally tell us about?
I guess like some interesting ones that we've rubbed shoulders with. We've definitely had some experiences with Adam Dirts at Counting Crows, and like having him kind of be a proponent for us and like waving the flag of like helping us out and just being an all around nice dude. Actually, I guess where this all started after I got fired from the last band I was in. It was a random day where I bumped into Ryan Adams, and he's actually the one that kind of influenced me to quit the band or stop playing with the other band and pursue Runaway Dorothy stuff. And it was total chance meeting. Just so happened he was playing in town that night, and I was supposed to be leaving for New York the next day, and like was leaving late, and I was out shopping with my girlfriend at the time, which was a horrible idea, It's like June and 1,000 degrees in South Carolina, but that chance meeting had me playing some songs for him, and he's like, "Hey, you should actually do this," and I'm like, "This is weird, man." Wow. So it's been kind of weird that we've kind of rubbed shoulders with some of the people that were like musical icons and influences to me,
right?
But them seeing us kind of like on the same level as them, which was
that's got to be humbling in a way.
It's like it's kind of crazy.
That's incredible. I mean, Adam Duritz and Ryan Adams are like, I just was listening to Gold last night.
Yeah,
I mean, what a great album. Through the process of you guys, being in the band and like you working with the artists that you worked with, what are some lessons that you could pass along, or that you learn, or that you would be willing to share, or maybe even some experiences that you can share with the audience about, maybe humorous or whatever, but things that have, as a band, that you guys have encountered and that really shaped who you are and what are doing, or where you're trying to head towards, with the pie eating smile on his face.
You got a grin. Go ahead. Yeah.
Don't drink too much before you play.
That's true. Drinking drunk.
Yeah. And I'm serious about that. I mean, you kind of get that out of your system after a while. But really, don't drink too much before you play.
or ever.
Yes.
Well, I think it's funny to listen to, like we were talking about Cinderella earlier, but like all these like bands that are like Def Leppard or Ozzy or all these bands that were known for partying back in the day. Now they have like yoga instructors and smoothie machines and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you think you sound awesome, but usually it's not the case. Like, man, we sound awesome tonight. I'm glad I had that bottle before I went on.
Well, the more you drink, the better you sound.
Right.
Yeah, so, at least you think so.
Right.
I think something that I learned relatively recently, and we spoke a little bit about the music industry, and it's a really interesting question because it gets brought up a lot in different ways of how does technology, or how does the kind of decline of major labels and the internet, how does it all affect you? And I wasn't playing music, and I wasn't part of the music industry in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, so I can't really say, but I would like to think that there is very little difference. I would like to think that if you focus on what you're doing and you work really hard, you'll accomplish the goals that you want. That being, notwithstanding, I want to be famous or I want to make $1 million. If you want to keep the party going. If you want to be in a band and you want to make music for as long as you can, and that's the goal, if you just work at it, I feel like you can do that, no matter how quick the discovery of music is. If you put the work in, someone will hear it. And I feel like, if that's your milieu, if you will, like if people pick up on
Just
that
getting
sense,
fancy over there.
That's a big word for our show.
if people pick up on that,
Can I use that in Words with Friends?
What does that mean?
But yeah, I feel like as far as something that I've learned, or I feel like I've developed a sense is that don't worry about all the external stuff. If you really just do what you want for your own reasons.
Well, that's a real interesting thing you bring up, because I just recently watched an interview with Quentin Tarantino, and someone's asking him about his movies, like Reservoir Dogs, like 20 years old. And he's like, well, I don't make my movies for this generation. I'm making for the people that are going to find them 20 years later or whatever. And it's the same thing with music. 'Cause, I mean, how many people now are, finding Led Zeppelin or, like the Bob Dylan or whatever. Absolutely. And hopefully that would translate into something that they're inspired by. So, I mean, it's when you're thinking of music in that context, you're not, on the level you guys are at, you're probably not making it for now, although we can enjoy it now. You're making it for 5, 10, years down the road.
It's funny that you mentioned that. I was watching a very interesting documentary about, I watch a lot of documentaries.
You guys just turned into professors all,
Nick Drake, and a lot of people,
yeah.
When he was playing during the 60s, and he died, young, he's part of the 27 Club,
right,
or whatever. People shut him down big time when he was playing, but I think it was like maybe 30 years after he had died, people were discovering his music. It was coming out, and people were covering his songs, and it's just really interesting that you made that comment about making things for future generations, because I love his albums.
Right. Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah. Like guys like him, Tim Buckley, like the whole
Graham Parsons stuff.
Yeah, Graham Parsons, yeah.
But I don't want to be Van Gogh. I don't want I don't want to be discovered after I'm dead and gone. Like, I want to be, I want people to come out to Lemon Grove tonight and hear us and like connect immediately, and chastise us for not having vinyl. I want to have that connection now.
Yeah, I think your music definitely lends to that, because like if I had to pick a genre that was my favorite, it would be the alternative country. I mean, I love Whiskey Town, Sun Volt, Wilco, the old Wilco stuff. I love all those guys, but to me that's such an accessible, because you're getting the rock, you're getting the country, you're getting everything. And I think it's really sad that is a genre as a whole that has gone kind of under the radar. I mean, unless you're really plugged in, you don't know who Sun Volt is. You don't know Wilco. I mean, the early Wilco stuff, And and I think Counting Crows is a band that, for instance, have had some mainstream success, but there's a lot of that influence in their music. So and hopefully you guys will be able to run with that torch, run with that banner, with that. So
we'll do that. We'll take that.
Awesome. I guess another question I have for you guys is, with the rising conflict in North Korea, what are your thoughts on that?
Well,
I'll take this one.
Do you want this one?
Were there two dud missile bombs that were dropped?
Was that a real question?
It was a semi-real question. We were talking about it on the way up here, or down here. So, but
don't get jiffy all political.
No, we don't talk politics on the show because the music's political enough. Right. So that's what we say. But,
yes, I would definitely.
Oh man, I got excited.
When I understand, their stealth bombers went in and dropped empty artillery shells on North Korean soil, and they were none too happy about that. So,
well, Kevin's our resident expert. He knows the skinny.
He's writing notes over there right now.
Is go on YouTube and watch Vice TV's visit to Korea. I want to plug Vice TV, but watch their visit to Korea, because North Korea, and how he had to get in. Actually,
we're actually interrupting Kevin building his dugout shelter in his backyard.
Have you seen that show Preppers, where they actually?
Yeah, I actually love that show.
That's a very interesting show.
You watch too much TV.
Is it before or after Gold Rush?
I don't.
It's before Wicked 2.
Is that on the History Channel?
Moonshiners? Man, I need to see
don't
that
even.
show.
Oh, no.
That's filmed in you guys' backyard, isn't it? Well, your backyard, not the real South, not the.
Right. Yeah.
I'm gonna refuse from mentioning something, but I can't say it. I can't.
Are you part of the moonshine?
No,
heritage?
I make my own moonshine.
Well, where is it?
I incriminated myself.
You incriminated yourself.
Listen,
hasn't finished
don't
distilling
drink
it.
alcohol. So
Make your own.
Ever.
no, I didn't say that.
So North Korea is a situation that really has not necessarily produced itself, but I do think there's been a little bit of help, with
So you're saying this is
moonshiners.
So the moonshining
I
conflict.
think the moonshiners should run to North Korea is what I'm trying to
So
say.
what we can gather from this is all North Koreans drink moonshine.
Anyway.
Or they'd be a lot cooler if they did.
Do they get the Dukes of Hazzard there?
I don't know. I that's probably the third greatest television show
I
ever.
have a feeling this episode's not going to be allowed to air.
We don't air in Germany, so it doesn't matter. But listen, guys, this has been an awesome interview. Where can the fans go to hear your music? Want to plug any websites, Facebook, Twitter, whatever?
Sure. We're at runawaydorothy.com. Facebook /Runaway Dorothy. I don't know if it's the forward or the back one. I get confused with this. Twitter Runaway Dorothy. Instagram, if you want to see lots of pictures of food and dogs, or us unloading the van. But we're all over iTunes and Amazon, and pretty soon coming to a Walmart near you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, listen, guys, I want to thank you for being on the show, for talking with us, and much success. Wish you guys the best. Be safe on the road, and
Thank
we
you so
will
very much.
talk again soon.
Thank
Cool.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.